Sound, Mind, and Body is brought to you in part by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/inbound. You'll find over 180,000 titles to choose from and to listen to through your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Support Sound, Mind, and Body by visiting audibletrial.com/inbound.
Hello, and welcome to Sound, Mind, and Body, a podcast where we talk about how to be healthy, balanced, and well of mind, body, and spirit in today's crazy world with a dash of woo-woo. Today, my guests are some very special people, a very special couple. They are Soulmate Coaches for spiritual, successful, single women who have everything except the man of their dreams. Hello, me. They are also the founders of the Love on Purpose Revolution, a global online event dedicated to busting the myth that love is supposed to happen by accident. Their breakthrough coaching program, Bring in Your Beloved, is the only course in the world that allows you to identify and transform your own personal love imprint, removing blocks to love so you can love yourself and others more deeply. I cannot wait to have this conversation with Orna and Matthew Walters. Welcome, you guys.
Oh, thank you. It's so great to be here.
Yeah, thank you, Sheila. It's so great to be here and to see you.
I know. So I've known, just a little bit of background info here. I've known Orna for a very long time, and we actually met doing some really woo-woo stuff together. And we'll talk about that a little later in the podcast. So let's start from the beginning. I mean, I've known Orna for a long time, and I know Orna did hand reading back in the day. How did you guys come together, and how did you create this whole program?
Well, thank you for asking. I still am a professional hand analyst.
Hand analyst.
Utilizing the science of palmistry, non-predictive scientific palmistry. So I had my business as a manifestation coach utilizing the hand analysis. And I was networking and building my business. And then I met this handsome man sitting next to me, Mr. Matthew Walters, through a networking group, through a business networking group.
Okay.
And actually our first, if you want to call it a date, was a networking breakfast where we got together one-on-one so we could learn more about each other's businesses so we could, in the parlance of the group, better refer business to each other.
Oh, wonderful.
But we spent the whole time talking about other stuff and barely talking about business and kind of realizing that we liked each other.
Well, actually, I had left the entertainment industry for personal growth. And everybody I knew in the entertainment industry thought I was having some kind of midlife crisis or breakdown or something. And when I sat at that breakfast meeting and spoke with Matthew, he was the only other person at that point that I had ever met that had also left entertainment for personal growth.
Oh, so you both worked in entertainment before. Okay.
Yeah, we were both, studied as actors when we were, in college. And Orna grew up here, but I, of course, came out to LA to pursue all those dreams. And like so many other people come out here, you run into the wall of that industry and ended up working, both of us working on the other side of the camera for a lot of our time. And, we both at some point, I know for myself, I realized in my early 30s that I had gotten some of the things I wanted, right? I was in a little independent film. I had done, quite a few commercials. I was doing voiceover, all this other stuff, and yet I wasn't happy.
Right.
And I had always thought that doing that was going to make me happy, right? If I just got what I really wanted, then I would be happy. And so I started looking at, okay, so what's really going on? Why am I not happy? And the first thing I realized was I was creating my own unhappiness.
Okay.
And so I began to look at, what was causing that? What was I doing that was causing me to be unhappy? And a lot of it had to do with, my inner dialogue. A lot of it had to do with how I was in relationship. A lot of it had to do with just family stuff that I hadn't ever dealt with. And I came across hypnotherapy. And it changed my life. Between a combination of hypnotherapy, meditation, and yoga, my life transformed in like a year and a half. I mean, everything changed. And I began to realize that I was actually in control of my own happiness. I was actually in control of what I wanted in my life, and I could start doing things that really brought me happiness.
I like the sound of that. And I think that I'm in control of my own happiness, but why am I not happy? No. Why have I not found my beloved?
Right. Well, it's about how are you flying that plane, right? Are you flying that plane with the skill set that you've learned? Or are you flying that plane of your happiness, right? Are you doing that from a habit that you created not as a grown woman, but as a little girl? Because I know for me, I grew up in a home actually where nobody was very happy. And even though my parents said, I love you in my family of origin meant, I could do anything to you. And that meant even, emotional abuse and physical abuse.
Oh, that's terrible.
So for me, I realized that I had to really learn how to love in a whole new way. That the habits of learning to give and receive love in my family of origin weren't serving me to have what I really want. Because I love Matthew. I love Matthew with my whole heart. But it is not appropriate for me to do anything to Matthew. And that respectful love actually has a boundary. And so I had to learn to love in a whole new way. And learning to do that actually allowed me to build my hand analysis business as a manifestation coach, helping people manifest. But what happened for me was when Matthew and I connected and we started dating, we weren't immediately working together. But everywhere we went, people would say, well, oh, hi, nice to meet you. And what do you do? And I'd say, oh, I'm a manifestation coach. And Matthew would say, oh, I'm a practitioner of NLP and therapeutic imagery and hypnosis. And they'd be like, wow, you guys are like the power couple. You should do something together. And we were like, do something together? What? We didn't even know what they meant.
Now, were you dating at the time?
Oh, yeah.
That they were saying, and it hadn't occurred to you to do something together yet.
No, it hadn't occurred to us at all. And what actually happened was we met somebody who she worked at a spa that was in Hollywood. It was just opening, and they wanted to start doing monthly talks. And so we had a meeting with them to do a talk there. And what we discovered very quickly was they already assumed that we were doing stuff together, and they asked us to speak together. And so we doing, what any good, actor does. We said, yes, of course we do that. Right. And then we get down to the car and we're like, okay, what are we going to talk about? And the one thing we were most passionate about was our relationship. So let's talk about how we created this relationship and how that happened, right? And we said, well, if we're going to talk about that, why don't we offer something? And so we said, great. And so we put together a 2.5-day workshop. We called it Creating Love on Purpose.
Oh my gosh.
Because that's what we did, right? We created this relationship on purpose, and our business was launched.
And what's funny is we created our love relationship on purpose, but we created this business completely by accident.
Oh, wow. That's so true.
So we've been the opposite of everybody else. And now we've been singing the praises of love on purpose ever since. Because if you're just walking around thinking you're going to bump into that magical, mythical right person and that it's all just going to magically work out one day. I mean, talk to anybody who's been married any length of time and they will tell you that love is a choice.
Yes.
And so you have to know by what criteria you're choosing.
That is a very interesting approach to it. And, so why do some people, what have you found in your working with other people? Why do some people find love easily and some people struggle? Because I have basically struggled most of my life with a relationship. I don't even have one right now. And I'm better off without one. That's what I feel like. And not that I'm better off, but I'm okay. And it's hard to think of incorporating one right now. But I know so many people that have had these really wonderful relationships and they're just meant to be and they love to be together like you guys. And I'm like, how do they do it?
It all has to do with your early childhood and your family of origin and how you learn to receive love in your family of origin. Right? Because if you've ever been around a newborn baby, they don't have any subconscious beliefs about love, right? They don't believe, oh, I'm unlovable as they're crying, right? They just know that they shine that light of love on the people who are taking care of them, and they receive love from anybody who's willing to give it to them. And that is our true nature. That is who we are as human beings. And yet we learn very quickly in our family of origin that love is conditional in some ways, right? And we don't have that ability when we're 2, 3, 4 years old to say, well, gee, Mom, that's not really helpful, right? What would be helpful to me is if you just gave me a hug and told me you loved me, right? Instead, we say when our parents are behaving in a way that doesn't feel good to us, we say, what is wrong with me that's causing my parent to behave this way? Right? What's wrong with me that's causing my parent to behave this way?
Right.
Because children have this weird way of taking full responsibility in that situation.
Exactly. And so it's not that you have to have a big dramatic childhood like I came from. I mean, I happen to have had a pretty dramatic, unhappy childhood in my family of origin because it wasn't safe to be in my family of origin. But, it's kind of like I like hanging around with this guy, Matthew, because he grew up in like a normal Midwestern family. Like I always tell him I always wanted to be part of a normal family. And now I am. I'm a Walters, right? I love being Mrs. Walters. But the truth is in Matthew's family, it's not like there was some big drama going on, but he's the youngest of 5, which has its own dynamic to it because the energetic dynamic of how love was given and received in that family was very set up. That energetic dynamic of how people loved one another in the Walters family was set up for quite some time before this little guy Matthew showed up. He's the youngest of 5 and the youngest of 4 boys, right? So, it doesn't have to be a big drama. So, that saying, nothing has meaning except the meaning you give it.
Right.
That's really the foundational piece that we work with because we can't change the plot points of your past, right? The events that occurred are the events that occurred. And yet the meaning that you assign to those events are completely malleable. Those are changeable. And when you change the meaning to those events, you can have a complete transformation.
Wow.
For example, were you raised to believe in Santa Claus, Sheila?
Yes.
So you believed in Santa Claus when you were little.
I did.
Do you remember when you found out that was a lie and there wasn't really?
I don't remember that. I don't remember that. But I did come from a family of 6 kids. I was in the middle, though.
Right.
So,
So we would be safe to say that you're not still upset.
No.
That you discovered that Santa Claus wasn't real.
I didn't get...
Right.
I don't remember being upset about finding out.
I mean, we use this as kind of this joking example, but the truth is a lot of us are still upset about things that happened to us as children.
Right.
And what
I'm
we
upset
really
about
need,
other things.
Exactly. And it is that emotional story that we're carrying around that we're bringing into our intimate relationships.
Right. I see. Oh
right. And so what we end up doing is we end up casting our partner in the role of one or both of our parents. And then we end up playing out that emotional dynamic with them. And then we wonder why it doesn't work because we still have these open wounds from our childhood. We call this whole system your love imprint.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I get that now.
And your love imprint is this subconscious story of love that you are carrying around.
Right.
It helps decide who you're attracted to. It helps decide your strategies, your mental emotional patterns. Everything that's going on in your intimate relationships is being guided by your love imprint.
So you could basically call that your family imprint, right? So it's like your love imprint, your family imprint are the same thing, right? You learned how to give and receive love in your family of origin. So when you're that little girl in your family of origin and whatever it is that's happening, both mother and father play a role, but your siblings can play a role. Or if there's other people that were involved in raising you, like a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle, this all plays a part of you shaping who you are in the love arena. So in other words, it creates your GPS for love.
I get it.
What love feels like and what love feels like to that subconscious part of you. So if there's a disconnect between what is in your true heart's desire, right? Like you have a vision of, I want a relationship like this with a guy like this, right? And so that's what you're looking for out in the world. But what your subconscious is looking for, because you're alive right now, it's looking for a match of what happened when you were little. Because you survived your family of origin. You're alive today, right?
Yeah.
And the job of the subconscious mind is to bring you more of the same so that you stay alive.
Oh my gosh.
Right? We're programmed to survive.
Right.
And in order to have a great love relationship, you have to move and have a transformation. You have to move that needle, in a sense, on your subconscious from the survival state of what is known into what is unknown so that you can really thrive in love and in your relationships.
Wow, that is really profound. Wow. You've already switched my way of thinking right now and just telling me that little bit. But it's like, what about when you feel this really intense connection with somebody? That's what I feel like most of my, earlier relationships were. You feel this intense connection. You're like, oh my God, love at first sight. I'm meant to be with this person. What about that?
That is a love imprint match. That is your subconscious saying, this is familiar, this is familiar, this is familiar. It doesn't say this is familiar good or this is familiar bad, right? It just says this is familiar. And I would guess that if you looked back over the pattern of those relationships, right, where there was an intense attraction, that they all followed a somewhat similar trajectory.
And they were all pretty screwed up. So I'm just like, oh my God, I have a screwed up imprint.
The subconscious, right? Let's put it this way. When you hear most motivational speakers talk, they talk about this idea that fear and excitement are literally the same thing. The difference is how we are talking to ourselves, right? So when we feel fear, your heart starts racing, your breath shortens, your palms get a little sweaty. If you've ever been up to Magic Mountain and you're in line and you're about to get on that huge roller coaster, right? You're either going like my wife is, you're going, oh, I can't wait, this is going to be so much fun, right? Or like our niece is saying, she's going, where's the chicken exit? How do I get out of this? What was I thinking, right? We're both of them are having the same physiological reaction.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right? Yeah. And so that excitement you feel with that intense attraction is actually, for a lot of people, it's a fear response. It's the subconscious saying, this danger, 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 this is not going to go well.
Right. I get it. Okay.
So what you have to understand is the subconscious mind doesn't have the capacity to judge. Right. And so when you think of how our big, beautiful brain functions, that big prefrontal cortex is the only place where we can judge this is good or bad for us. But our subconscious doesn't. It only knows this is familiar or this is not familiar.
I get it. I'm starting to get it. Man, I need you guys. I need to hire you guys. Where have you been all my life? So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about some of the tools of transformation that you have developed. On the next episode of Sound, Mind, and Body, we talk to the unstoppable Suzanne Lyons. She's an independent film producer who has an extraordinary story to tell about overcoming cancer as a child.
I started with the tumor when I was really little. It turned from benign to malignant. So the doctor had said to my mom, Mrs. Lyons, he said, I want you to come down. I want you to bring Joe. He'd never asked for my dad to come down to St. John before, ever. So she knew immediately. They gave me 3 to 6 months. So, and they said, what's her chances? And it was kind of like a 90-10 that it wasn't going to work.
You're kidding.
Yeah. So my mom said, I'm sorry.
Really?
I'm not going with 90-10. So she just did some research. She went through the hospital up there, and she came to a floor of radiology, and she asked them, and they said, well, we don't know. It's a very rare cancer, and, it could be a 50-50. She said, 50-50 is better than 90-10. So she said, sign me up.
That's next week on Sound, Mind, and Body.
Hey, it's Tim Edwards with the Inbound Podcasting Network and producer of Sound, Mind, and Body. Just the fact that you're listening to the Sound, Mind, and Body podcast tells us that you enjoy consuming your content through your ears. Now, if you're a podcast listener, you're a perfect fit to enjoy audiobooks. So for you, our listeners, and official members of Sheila's woo-woo community, Audible is offering you a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial to check out their awesome service. Look, I'll be honest, I hate reading, always have. I'm a very slow reader, and I don't have the time to just sit down and read a book. So, like you, I've always loved consuming my content through listening. I've been an Audible customer for several years, and as a result, on average, consume about 20 to 25 books a year. In other podcasts the Inbound Podcasting Network produces, we've interviewed authors like Dr. Martin Gabala, who penned The 1 Minute Workout, and Dr. Sylvia Tara, who wrote The Secret Life of Fat. Both are very informative for those who are looking to get in shape and to stay in shape, and both are available with Audible. Give it a shot. You've got nothing to lose. It's absolutely free for 30 days, and you get a free audiobook to keep even if you don't continue with the subscription. Support Sound, Mind, and Body by visiting audibletrial.com/inbound. That's audibletrial.com/inbound. We'll include a link in the show notes, or just click the Audible banner at soundmindbodypodcast.com.
Okay, we're back and we're talking to Orna and Matthew Walters, who are soulmate coaches. And it's so interesting to hear all this. So in a lot of your promotional materials, you talk about single women. Is that all you work with is single women?
Well, we market to women, but we also work with men.
Oh, okay.
So the men that resonate with our message show up, and we've coached plenty of men. We've coached people who are not heterosexual. We've coached lesbians. We've coached gay men. We've coached, we've actually done our fair share, if you can believe, of breakup coaching. People who are having a hard time breaking up with somebody that they know is not an ideal match.
Wow.
So you think as a soulmate coach, we only bring people, clear their blocks so they can come together. But maybe you have blocks keeping you stuck in a relationship that isn't serving you.
Oh, interesting.
And so we've helped disconnect people through a sort of breakup coaching.
And that was mutual between the two parties? Or is it usually one person?
No. We usually worked with one person who was having trouble ending a relationship. For example, we actually worked with a man who was in an abusive relationship with a woman. And he was raised to believe, because his father left when he was a child, and he was raised by his mother to believe that good men stay.
Yes.
Right?
I see.
Good men stay, bad men leave. And so he was what we would call, he was in a double bind.
Right.
Part of him knew he had to leave this relationship because it wasn't healthy and it wasn't working for him. And part of him, that little boy inside of him, said, but wait, good men stay, only bad men leave.
Yeah.
And so he was stuck inside, right? And a lot of us we're stuck in this idea of a double bind. We're stuck in these two belief systems that we're carrying inside of us. And it's like we're arm wrestling ourselves. And in that space, we're not going to move anywhere.
Right.
We literally are stuck in terms of making a choice, making a decision. So some of the work we do with people is helping release these double binds so that they can actually get into action, get into movement, and make the choices they need to make.
I see.
So when you think about the transformative work that we do, this idea of releasing somebody from a double bind is a perfect example, because if you are, in a sense, arm wrestling yourself, pretend you don't have a dominant hand. Pretend they're equally strong on both sides. That's really what a double bind is like. It's like trying to arm wrestle yourself, and you can't win or lose. You're just stuck. And so a lot of times that comes across as apathy, where people are like, I don't even know if I want a relationship, right? They're kind of stuck. Like,
That's me.
A part of them wants the relationship and a part of them doesn't. I know. That's why I brought it up, because I heard you. You're like, but everything's good right now, so I don't know how I'd fit that guy in, right? And I just, for me personally, I think we're supposed to be in intimate relationship. We're supposed to partner with somebody. I mean, one of my favorite quotes is actually a Swedish proverb about why we're in relationship. And it's really simple. The Swedish proverb says, shared joy equals double joy.
Oh.
Shared sorrow is half sorrow.
Oh my gosh.
So when you really share your life with somebody, you have more joy. But, life is always going to throw you challenges. And so, shared sorrow is half sorrow.
Is half as sorrow. Oh my gosh.
Because you get to share it. And so, when you think about transformation can happen in a moment, but usually it doesn't. Usually it happens over a condensed period of time. So if you think about the things that actually metamorphosize and transform, like a lemon on a tree doesn't go from being hard and solid dark green to being in the next moment soft, ripe, and yellow.
Yeah.
Right. It happens over a condensed period of time. And that's what we do through our coaching programs. We're able to create a transformation in the subconscious mind, which means that big prefrontal cortex doesn't really have to do anything. There's a lot less doing when we're done coaching the women that we coach or the men that we coach, although we do coach mostly women, right? So let's talk to the women, because what they're thinking is, oh, I'm a powerful woman and I intimidate men. I mean, I used to think that. I mean, I know, I mean, I'm no wallflower. I mean, Sheila, you've known me for decades. And
Not exactly.
You know, I show up in the room and I know what's going on and I'm smart and I'm capable. And I hear a lot of women saying, well, I don't know that I need a man. And I'm like, well,
Right.
I don't know that you need a man, but that's the best place to really create a soulmate partnership with somebody, when you don't need someone, but you want to share your life with somebody.
Right.
That's the place to bring in a beloved relationship.
So how long is a typical program that you work with somebody?
It varies, right? We have group programs that are 8 weeks long. We have private coaching packages that are 6 months long. It really varies in terms of where somebody is and what kind of level of help they would like, right?
Okay.
You know, it can
be tailored to
can be tailored to them. We even have, you know, the do-it-yourself program where somebody can just sit at home and go through the program themselves. So there's a lot of ways that people can do the work. It's about the understanding, though, because I think a lot of us think if we just get the right information, that suddenly our lives are going to change.
Right.
Right. If we read that book, right? How many people have read a book on diet and exercise, and when they were
God.
don reading the book, they still weighed the same.
Yeah, right.
Right. But they have all this new information. So
Confusion.
We know that information doesn't create transformation. We have to speak the language of the subconscious mind. And our subconscious doesn't speak English or French or Swahili. It communicates through the body, through symbol, image, story, and metaphor.
And do you use hypnosis in part of this process?
We do have some guided processes. A lot of the work we do is more interactive. You know, because hypnosis can be very sort of passive, where you just lay back and listen, right? We like to be more interactive because we want to work with all the parts of you, your conscious brain, your subconscious brain, your body, your spirit, the whole thing, so that transformation actually happens.
Oh, great. That sounds fantastic. And you guys have a free gift for our listeners, right? So that they can possibly get a little taste of this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, this is really a free gift to get them thinking differently about how to create love instead of falling into that love by accident, right? There isn't a transformation necessarily in this free gift, but it gets them into that space of like, oh, now I understand some of these mistakes that I've been making, right? So our free gift is called the 7 major mistakes that single women make that block them from finding true love, and of course, how to avoid them.
Okay. I need to read this immediately.
Yeah, and actually that brings a good point, because in today's busy world, sometimes you don't have the time, even though this is a pretty, you know, it's like a special report. It's not like a book, but you get it both ways. So the free gift, it comes both ways as a PDF, or you can read it, but it also comes as an audio program.
Oh, wonderful.
So you can send it into your iPhone and take it on the go with you. You can listen at the gym or in the car, and you can have that aha about, oh crap, I really do make it easy with the guys I'm attracted to, because that's the number one mistake women make. They make it really easy, right? You don't make any plans on a Saturday night because you want to be available in case he texts you at the last minute. And of course, you're a little upset that he's texting you to ask you out, and it kind of feels like a booty call instead of a date, right? Yeah. So you can throw all of that making it easy aside. You shouldn't be making it easy. I'll just say this. The first time Matthew ever called me and said, hello, this is Matthew Walters from WRS. And I said, oh, hello, Matthew. And he said, hi, I'd like to do some one-on-one networking with you. And I said, oh gosh, I don't really know my schedule. Can I get back to you? And you know what? I didn't. And I mean, I'll just be honest, I was busy. So I didn't get back to him. But a week later, he called again. Right. And so I'm not asking anybody to play a game. I was authentically and truly busy. So I just didn't make it a priority to get back to him. But if seeing me was a priority to a man, you better believe he called again.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Right.
That is true.
And so really, when you stop making these quote unquote mistakes, right, that we talk about in this report, you'll find that there are a lot of men out there that you will be attracted to that are looking for a relationship with you.
Right.
And when you really go through this sort of deep inner work with us, you'll never have to ask a guy, where is this going?
I love that. So how do people find you? Just on your website? Is that how people can find get in touch with you, find all your programs?
That's the best place to get started. You could go to creatingloveonpurpose.com.
Okay.
Creatingloveonpurpose.com. And on there, we actually have what we call our blog, which is Ask Orna and Matthew. And on that blog, there are dozens of questions. People have asked us about dating and relationship and all the answers and everything. So you can go in there and read through the blog. There's tons of articles. There's tons of free resources if you just want to get more information first before you're ready to take the next step.
That's great. So now I need to ask you guys my sound, mind, and body questions, which are, first of all, how do you two stay of sound, mind, and body in your lives? How do you do that?
I want to say practice what we teach.
Okay.
So we teach our clients to really make themselves their top priority. So the goal is always to fill your own cup, not just to full, but to overflowing, so that what is in your cup is for you, and what's in the overflow is for you to be of service out in the world. And so I really work on filling my own cup, not just to full, but to overflowing.
Oh, wonderful.
I got two things. One, meditate daily. And two, speak how you're feeling.
Okay.
Don't hold it back.
Those are really good things. And then as far as health-wise, I hear you grow a garden. You've brought us some wonderful things from your garden, and also some salsa that you make, or hot sauce, right?
Yeah, I was gardening before I started dating Matthew. I had one little garden plot, and now we have 3. So we garden in a community garden, and it's something that we love to do. We say that the couple that gardens together stays together.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah, and it's also because, for us, it's about being conscious in relationship, conscious in our lives. So we're conscious about the food we put in our body and why.
That's great. So now I want to ask you each your separate questions, but we can answer. I'll do it one at a time, but meaning, okay, so the first question is, what's a favorite sound? So Matthew, what's a favorite sound?
Is my wife's laugh.
Oh, isn't that beautiful? And then Orna, what's your favorite sound?
My favorite sound is hearing my husband talk to our cat.
Oh, that's very unique. Oh, you guys are too cute.
I know. He has the cutest little voice when he talks to her. It's just like, it warms my heart every time.
I love it. Okay, so what is a favorite memory? A favorite memory. It can just be the first thing that comes to mind.
Wow, a favorite memory is on the lake with my dad on his pontoon boat cruising around.
What lake in what state?
It's a tiny little lake called Loch Lloyd that actually was built while we were growing up and flooded onto our property. And so we went from living out in another country to having lakefront property overnight. And, it's one of the quietest, most beautiful places.
Oh, wonderful. What a great memory. And you, Orna?
My favorite memory is when Matthew proposed and asked me to marry him.
Oh, and how did he do that? Was it a long story?
It's kind of a long story, so I'll tell you privately.
Okay.
But your listeners will have to get in touch with us if they want to know, because it actually is a long story.
Oh,
but
I love it.
Let me just say this. I'll share this part with you. The reason why it's one of my favorite memories is because I found out retroactively that he'd been stressing out about how to ask me and where to ask me and this whole rigmarole. And then finally he just blurted it out, will you marry me? And it was the perfect proposal because, I know that a lot of guys, set up some elaborate, things. And he had a lot of friends who did some elaborate proposals. And his was reflective of who he is, because he's a guy who just naturally finds the easy door. So he just blurted out, will you marry me? And I just loved that. I love that he just couldn't wait another second to ask me. So he just blurted it out.
That's so beautiful. Okay, so what's a favorite place? A favorite place, Matthew?
A favorite place is the Lake Shrine in Pacific Palisades.
Ah, yes, that's beautiful. Wonderful. How about you, Orna?
There is a secret labyrinth on the island of Maui up in the area of Kapalua. And that's got to be one of my favorite places in all the land.
Oh my gosh.
And we've been there quite a few times. We actually have a group program that ends with a retreat on the island of Maui.
I'm going. Sign me up. Okay, so the final question. What's the most woo-woo thing you've ever done? Matthew?
There's so many things, but I once was working with a woman who had me on a massage table, and she would call in all the Archangel Michael and the whole thing, and then she would do this sound, noises that she would make. And I would just lay there, and I'm like, okay.
Oh my God, that's funny. Did it do anything? Did you feel better afterwards?
I felt better. I have no idea what it did, but I did feel better.
Okay, Orna, what about you? I know you're a really woo-woo person like me.
I know. I have done, from getting my tea leaves read when I was like in high school, all the way to not only having my hands read, but becoming a hand analyst and growing up in LA. If it exists, it's in Los Angeles,
Right.
So I'm going to pick the thing actually that I did for the first time with you, Sheila, which is to do a traditional sweat lodge.
Oh, that's right.
Which we did in Sedona, Arizona with actual Native Americans.
We did it.
Do you remember Rahilio, right?
Rahilio.
Was it Rahilio? Yeah. And we sat there in the dark where it's so dark you can't even see your hand in front of your face. And we chanted all those Native American songs,
prayers
and songs
to the different directions.
Oh my gosh, the north, south, east, west.
Yeah.
And it was such a transformative experience.
Oh,
and I remember Rahilio instructing us to pick something that we wanted to burn away.
Oh,
Do you remember?
In
to
the
pick
fire
something,
beforehand?
Yeah, in the fire that we wanted to really transform. And I felt like that was such a huge transformation because what I threw in the fire was my victim story.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, and I threw that victim Orna away.
Oh, well, it worked. That was a really cool moment.
Yeah.
That was. Yeah. Awesome. Well, you guys, I cannot thank you enough for coming here and being on this podcast. And we could probably talk for hours and hours. And I'm definitely personally going to talk to you after this. I need it. So, and thank you for the free gift. And I'll be looking that up too and promoting that. And
I just want to remind people that they can collect the 7 major mistakes single women make that block them from finding true love at our website, right there on the homepage.
Okay.
creatingloveonpurpose.com.
creatingloveonpurpose.com. And let's get to it, ladies. Let's create love on purpose. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheila. So great to see you.
So that's it for this episode. So what about you? Is love easy for you or is it difficult for you? Like it seems to be for me. Let us know. Send us a voice memo or an email to podcast@soundmindbodypodcast.com and let us know your story. Thanks for listening and please subscribe if you haven't already. And if you like the podcast, give us a review on iTunes. It really helps new listeners find us. I want to thank our producer, Tim Edwards, and the Inbound Podcasting Network. And I'd like to really thank our guests today, Orna and Matthew Walters. Get in touch. I'm on Instagram at Shishi Melody, on Twitter at Sheila Melody1, or find us on Facebook, search for Sound Mind Body Podcast, or just go to our website, soundmindbodypodcast.com. I'm Sheila Melody. Join us next week as we explore, enlighten, and evolve.